Good morning. Well, it's truly my privilege to be able to with you yesterday in a co-workers retreat. And then after that, my wife and I went to your sister church at South Shore. And then we have training there in the afternoon and evening. And early this morning, 9 something, back here to speak to you. And then after work, we will speak to the Mandarin congregation. And then afterward, we'll go to South Shore again to preach there. Wow, it's 2 full days. But I really thank God for seeing what has been happening in Montreal, seeing your church as well as South Shore, that God has been blessing you amazingly. So even though it's quite tiring, but yet it's very exciting and thankful. So this morning I would like to share with you something about my story and God's story. It's something related to something I'm really passionate about missional church. If you remember last time I was with you guys, talk about the 3 essential elements of a missional church. I'm going to preach again later this afternoon to the Mandarin congregations. So you all get the same message, whether it's in English or in Mandarin. So missional church is something really passionate. I'm thinking about why we exist, why we get it together, as the chairman, our elder mentioned, why we wake up so early, 9 something, and gather here in worship. By the way, my church in Ottawa, for the English congregation, they meet at 11:15. They have more time to sleep. And then the Mandarin and Cantonese, they meet at 9:30. It's just the opposite. Whatever, why we exist, why we do it, it's not for us. It's for God. It's for the Great Commissions. So along that line, I'll share with you this topic, my story and God's story. Every one of us have our own story. Similarly, we go through the same stage, like we get educations, we pay, we have family, we work. For Christians, we come to church. But uniquely, each one of us have our unique context, our background. So every one of us has a story. But what about God's story? Is our story only our story, stand alone? Or how about if our story also in line with God's story? That's a very important message. In Luke chapter 12, Jesus used a parable to teach a very important message. Where in Luke, here it said, and Jesus told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crop. Then he said, this is what I will do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I will say to myself, you have plenty of grain to lay up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be for whoever store up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Well, many times we use this passage to preach to those non-believers. And we say, okay, even you earn the whole world, but without eternal life. What does it mean? But this passage is not just particular for the non-believers. Actually, it could be applied to believers too. Because even though we are Christians, but doesn't mean that our value system, our priority is the same in line with God. Even though we're Christians, we may have our own story, which is not necessarily in line with God's story. Let's look at this story, this parable deeply again. This rich man is getting richer. Is there wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with being rich. Particularly those today, you're second generation. If you're professional, you usually get over 100 grand a year. There's nothing wrong being rich. Rich is okay. He plans to save it up so as to enjoy life in retirement. What's wrong with it? Nothing wrong. Do you buy RSP? Yeah. Do you save up for your tax saving account? Of course. Why? Because one will have a better plan when we retire. So there's nothing wrong with it. So all these plans is good and proper. The only problem is not the plan. The only problem is he has not considered God and God's will in His plan at all. Even though what He do is good and proper, to save up for the days when we retire, we have a better future, we have better retirement. There's nothing wrong with it. The only problem, when we have our own story, our story never have God's involvement. When we plan our futures, we never seek God's will. We just plan our own way, just like the Chinese parents. Usually they want their kids to be engineering, to be lawyers, to be doctors. When you have this career, well, your future will be bright. But when we do that, we never thought about what's God's plan on your children. We never thought about you being a pastor. We never being a missionary. So we have to coincide our plan with God's plan. And how this guy is rich materially, but poor spiritually. That's the problem. And how God sees these people. He calls him fool. That's our story this morning. We have our own story, we have our own plan. But is our plan in line with God's plan? If you have our own plan, even though this plan is very successful, we gain a lot. But if this plan, my story doesn't in line with God's story, even though we gain a lot, it is in vain. Because it won't hold long. It won't be eternal. So what is our plan? Even for missions, as I share with you something I'm passionate about, missionary church. A few years ago I read a lot of this kind of books. When we talk about missions, they think, oh, it's God's commissions. We're going to do it. So for those churches who are not committing the commissions, forget about it. But even for Alliance, we have been very enthusiastic about doing missions. But doesn't mean that whatever mission we do is in line with God's plan. So when I read this book, really struck me is that a lot of churches, even though they do missions, their mission is ecclesiocentric. That means church-centered. We use church as the first base. We have a lot of activity. Most of all, we have to be survivors. So I think if I have enough money, if I have enough manpower, okay, let's do something about missions. So basically, church-based, church-centered kind of missions. But God's missions is theocentric. If our God is a missional God, if our God is a sending God, we are people are being sent, then we have to think mission again. Whether we use church as a center or we use God as a center. So that's the difference between mission-minded and missional. CNMA is mission-minded. We very much care about missions. We send people, we send money, we pray for our IW. Those are good. I'm not saying that's not good. But it doesn't mean it's missional. So what is missional? Missional is not just sending and supporting. Missional is just not a representative. A few of us being called and sent to the mission field. And missional is not just one of the ministry in the church. So what is missional? Missional is being and doing. We walk the walk, we talk the talk. If this denomination is very much concerned about missions, we're not just overseas missions, what about the local community? We're not just a few who are being chosen to be a career missionary. What about you and I? We are also participating in missions, not as a career missionary, but rather as a life missionary. We are being sent to our school, we are being sent to our community, we are being sent to our marketplace, we are even being sent to our home to be His witness. You and I are also a missionary. Not a career missionary, but we are being representing who God is by who we are. And then mission is just not one of the ministry of the church. It's actually the essence of existence. Why we exist is for mission. And it's not just for us. So how God do His mission? There's a very important passage in Genesis. When Adam and Eve fall, and then God's saving plans never stop. And then this time, in Genesis, he called a third person, very important, Abraham, and threw him to the Israelites. We see how God blessed and chose Abraham. Here in Genesis chapter 12, the Lord has said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. That's wonderful, right? God bless Abraham. You'll be great. Your name will be great. You will be a blessing. But God doesn't stop there. And then verse 3, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curse you, I will curse you, and all people on earth will be blessed through you. So that's two parts of this blessing. The first part is what we call the top line blessing. God's blessings to Abraham, I will make you into a great nation, I will bless you. That's wonderful. Just like God has chosen us and be his children, now we sit here. We're blessed. But it's not just stopped there. There's also a bottom line blessings. The purpose of God's blessings to you and I. The same to Abraham. So that all people on earth will be blessed through you. So we have our story. We're being chosen. We're being blessed. But not just stop there. That's also God's story. He chose us, he blessed us to make us a channel of blessings, to be a blessing to many people. Today's problem is we just satisfy being blessed. We stop here. Oh God, help me. We forgot our duty. We're not just blessed by God. God blessed us with a purpose. Have we fulfilled it? So in the Bible, actually, there's a lot of scriptures. According to Kairos, I cited from Kairos. Kairos is a course on missions. He said about 400 passages in the Bible talk about this. Top line, bottom line. Top line, bottom line. This is how God used this as a channel to reach out to all nations. So we see in Psalm 67 here, may God be gracious to you and bless you and make his face shine upon us. Is that good? Good. It's wonderful. But not stop there. So that that means the purpose. Why God bless us, his face shine upon us? Because so that your way may be known on earth. Your salvations among all nations. Again, the same thing. Like in Jeremiah, God has chosen Jeremiah. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Wow, wonderful. But why? I appoint you as a prophet to the nations. So all in all in the Bible, this place God's plan. God has a story. God has a plan. He wants to save all. And the way he do it, he's chosen a certain group of people, bless him, use him as a channel of blessing to bless the rest. So the point is, back to the basic questions. We have our own story. But is our story just stand alone with no relation to God? Or if my story is in line with God's story? That's amazing. That's the most abundant life we will experience if that's the situation. There's a book written by Richard Stern. If you know Richard Stern, he's executive director of World Vision. This book's name is Unfinished. Well, why? Such a strange name. Remember when Jesus was crucified on the cross, the last word he said, what is that when he finished? It's finished. It's really done. That means he came on earth with a mission, and that mission's fulfilled. So he said, finished. But this book named Unfinished. Why? Because Jesus did what he did. His part is finished. But the whole salvation plan is not yet finished. So it's unfinished. So what's the rest of the part have to do? It's through his church. That means through you and me. so that we can continue to finish the whole story. God finished his part, Jesus, and then we have to pick up the second part. This is our duty. So in this book, you mentioned something very interesting, very provoking. You still remember in 2010, there's a major earthquake at Haiti. That's on January 12th. Happened in the city, west side of the capital city, about 10 or 12 kilometers. There's a major earthquake. I think it's a Richter scale 7.5. So over 120,000 people died. Millions of people being affected. The city is totally ruined. So being ahead people of world vision, of course we went there and see what's happening and how we can be a help. So when he went there, he see the situations, he says, oh, so tragic. People's lives is lost. There's so many parents losing their children, children without their parents. The whole city totally ruined. So when he see the picture, he said, oh, it's totally tragic. It's a tragic place, a tragic kingdom. So remember that thing happens on January. So just before January, in December, at church, we have a very important day. What's it? Christmas. And then at his home church in LA, huge church, mega church. And then at Christmas, we have cantata, we have so many different kinds of celebrations. It became a huge contrast. At Haiti, it's tragic. And then think about just about a month or so ago at his home church. It's just like Disney World. It's a magic kingdom. It became a big contrast that really struck his heart. Why we in LA, in US, we have such a luxurious magic place, and now in Haiti, it's just like a hell. Totally tragic. And he became asked a very simple but profound question. So what's God's kingdom? Where's God's kingdom? Is it those people who live in Haiti are just unfortunate? Too bad. They were born and raised there. Oh, we were lucky one. We lived in Montreal. We live in LA. We live in Canada. We're just fortunate. God bless us. Oh, cool. The question is, where's God's kingdom? Is it only limited in North America? If God's kingdom also in Haiti? If God's kingdom in everywhere of the world? The point is, being a God's children, if God bless us, is it oh, we cool, we stay here, we enjoy. That's it. What's your story? What's your plan? Have you thought about your future? If your future is also in line with God's story. We're talking about missional. Missional is just not sit here, pray, give, and that's it. Missional is a being. You yourself is a missionary. You're being sent to different places. And your life of being a testimony. So being a Christian is not just Sunday, come here, sing song, have fun, and that's it. The rest of the week, just be yourself. We have to be a new person. We have to align our story with God's story. Let's take an example. That's a case study. Nehemiah. We use Nehemiah to see Nehemiah's story and then to see God's story and see how Nehemiah's story can relate it to God's story. Okay, so we just look at Nehemiah first chapter. Is this too small? Okay, you guys are young, don't worry. You can read it. Okay, we just go through Nehemiah, just first chapter. 11 verses. We talk about the background. So look into it. From this chapter 1, we want to find out what is Nehemiah's story, and then what is God's story, and how Nehemiah aligns his story with God's story and make Nehemiah a different people, a person. Okay, the word of Nehemiah, son of Hekeliah, in the month of Kislev, in the 20th year, while I was in the citadel of Susan, Hanani, one of my brothers, came from Judah with some other man, and I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that has survived the exile, and also about Jerusalem. They said to me, those who survived the exile and are back in the province are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire. When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some day I mourned and fasted and prayed before God of heaven. Then I said, Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of love with those who